The title of today's sermon is Hanukkah, Part 3, Yeshua's Conception and Birth. The Feast of Hanukkah, what's another title, another name for Hanukkah? I've already said it today. What is it? Festival of Lights. Also Festival of, what's the dedication? That's it. Where is the Feast of Hanukkah found in Scripture? John 10. Okay, besides that, where can you read about Hanukkah? Maccabees. Maccabees is not Scripture, but that is during the intertestamental period, in between the so-called Old and New. I don't like to call it that, but in between the so-called Old and New covenants. In 1 Maccabees chapter 2 through 4. If you're just watching part 3 for the first time, you need to go back and watch part 1. That's been a couple weeks back now. I believe that was December the 6th. Okay, he showed you the slide. That's okay. When does Hanukkah start? The 25th day of Kislev, which falls anytime from late November. How many of you remember a few years back, Hanukkah started day 1 on Thanksgiving? Yeah, late November. So it can start anytime from late November to late December. Sometimes it starts as late as December 25th even on the Gregorian calendar. Hanukkah reminds us of the miraculous defeat of the Greek army by the Maccabees. You know, a Jewish joke I heard this week. Hanukkah is about the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, defeating Greece. Therefore, we eat greasy food. Oh, don't throw no eggs or nothing at me. No tomatoes, okay? Hey, there we go. Hanukkah is all about miracles. It's a miraculous time of year. But there's more to the story than what I've already taught. There's more to the story than just the Maccabees. There's more to the story than just the temple. Based on biblical evidence, many believe Yeshua was conceived, came into his mother's womb, Mary's womb, the angel Gabriel, during Hanukkah. You might say, I didn't know that. Well, have you heard before that Yeshua was born during Sukkot, Tabernacles? Many Messianics celebrate his birth during Sukkot. Well, back up 9 months. What do you get? Hanukkah. So let's break this down. Let's talk about Yeshua's conception. Are you ready? You have to start. This is like a mystery, right? And you're putting together the pieces. You have to start with John, Yochanan the Baptist. Start with his father, Zacharias. There's the key. Because remember, John and Yeshua were conceived and born close to one another, 6 months to be exact. So you figure out when one was conceived and when one was born, boom, you figure out the other. Well, how do we do that? John the Baptist's father, Zacharias, he had a job. He had a position. What was he? He was a priest. He served in the temple. Okay? How many of you at your job place, you have a work schedule? Everybody, right? King David divided the priesthood into courses or schedules or groups to create this schedule by which the temple could be staffed for the whole year. He didn't want every priest showing up every day, and he's like, I only need a few of you, right? And you can find this, show them that reference again, in 1 Chronicles 24. 1 Chronicles 24. That's your homework tonight. Look that up. Now, these courses or this schedule, these groups of priests, it started, so you have to know when the schedule started, okay? It started each year on the first Shabbat in the month of Nisan, which is around March, April. Passover is typically around April 1st, give or take. So Nisan the 1st would be 2 weeks before Passover. Because of his family name. So there's another clue. You got to know his family's name. Because of his family's name, Zacharias would have served in the course called Abi, which would have been the 8th course of the year. Therefore, here's when that 8th course served. Therefore, he would have served in the 10th week of the year. Remember, starting back in Nisan the 1st, you count 10 weeks. That would have been in the Hebrew month of Sivan, which is our June. Have I lost you yet? Am I putting this together clearly for you? So, more than likely, Zacharias would have been in the temple in the month of June, around Shavuot, Pentecost, maybe a little after, give or take, in that area. And remember what happened? That's when he had this visitation, and he's like, your wife's going to be pregnant. And he's like, no. So what happened to Zacharias? Lost his voice. Right? Now, you might say, but Rabbi, how do we know that those 24-course work schedule was still implemented during the time of the New Testament? Because that was several hundred years after David put it together. They'd been in exile since then, right? Guess what? The Jewish historian Josephus, who lived during this time of Yeshua and John the Baptist and his father Zacharias, Josephus confirms this priesthood schedule was still being used during the 1st century, during Zacharias' temple service. So we can pretty much say without a doubt, okay, now let me throw this out there to you, okay? There's still a slim possibility that we could be wrong on this. And here's why. This work schedule runs its course, and then it finishes, and they repeat it in the same year. So there's some other Messianics that feel, no, he served, Zacharias was visited with this vision, and Elizabeth got pregnant when he served the second time. But there's other things that doesn't match there. That throws everything off. That means Yeshua would have not been conceived on Hanukkah. Yeshua would have not been born on Tabernacles. And we see other connections indicating that he was. So I believe that Zacharias was in the temple in June. So John the Baptist was conceived after his father's temple service, hence the image of the temple, in the month of Sivan, or June. 6 months later, 6 months into Elizabeth's pregnancy with John the Baptist, the angel Gabriel comes and he visits Yeshua's mother, Miriam, or Mary. When would that have been? If that was back in June, 6 months later, what's that? December. The angel Gabriel would have visited Miriam, announcing her conception with Yeshua. But I want to point something out, though, here in a minute. I don't believe that the angel Gabriel just came. We're going to read this in just a second in both English and in Spanish. I don't believe that the angel Gabriel would have forced this upon Miriam and said, oh no, you're pregnant. And Miriam would have been like, no, I don't want to be. No, you are. Here's when I think it happened. I think it's when Miriam said, "Let it be done unto me." Because that was a supernatural thing that happened there, right? Well, let me break down the supernatural for you. The super was the angel Gabriel, God, the Holy Spirit. The natural was Miriam saying, "Let it be done unto me." The supernatural is God's super and our natural. It takes both. It takes us being in accord, right? Amen? I hope that changes the definition of supernatural for you. It takes us. We are a part. We have to accept. We have to be willing. So, let's turn and read. If you have your Bibles, if you want to turn, you can. If you want to read it on the screen, you can. I believe on this section I'm using the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life, Luke chapter 1. We're going to skip around just a little bit here. I've cut some verses short. Luke chapter 1, verse 23. It says, "When the days of his priestly service had been completed, he," who is the he there? Zacharias, "went home." The first part of 24. "After these days, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant."
Lucas capítulo 1, versos 23 y 24. Y cuando se cumplieron los días de su servicio sacerdotal, regresó a su casa. ¿Quién? Zacarías. Y después de estos días, Elizabeth, su mujer, concibió.
Verse 26. "Then, in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by Adonai, the Lord, into a town in the Galilee named Nazareth."
Verso 26. Y al 6º mes, el ángel Gabriel fue enviado por Dios a una ciudad de Galilea llamada Nazaret.
Verse 27, "And to a virgin." So the angel was sent to Nazareth, to a virgin engaged to a man named Joseph of the house of David. The virgin's name was Miriam.
A una virgen desposada con un hombre que se llamaba José, de los descendientes de David, y el nombre de la virgen era María.
Verse 28, "And coming to her, the angel said, Shalom," or peace, favored one, "Adonai is with you."
Y entrando el ángel le dijo, "Salve, muy favorecida, el Señor está contigo, bendita eres tú entre las mujeres."
Verse 30, just a portion of verse 30. This angel continues this discourse, this conversation, and the angel says, "Do not be afraid, Miriam." Verse 31, "Behold, you will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Yeshua."
Versos 30 y 31. "No temas, María, y he aquí concebirás en tu seno y darás a luz un hijo, y le pondrás por nombre Jesús."
Now, notice before I read verse 38, though, for the angel to tell her, "Do not be afraid," what was going on? Miriam was afraid. Yeah, and don't forget, this is a teenage girl here. She was young. But look at what she says. So that was the super. Look at the next slide. That was the super. Here comes the natural in verse 38. "So Miriam said, Behold, the servant of Adonai, let it be done to me according to your word." And the angel left. I think right then is when the conception happened.
Verso 38. Entonces María dijo, "He aquí la sierva del Señor, hágase conmigo conforme a tu palabra." Y el ángel se fue de su presencia.
Amen. Therefore, the light of the world came to this world late in the month of December, or Kislev on the Hebrew calendar, during Hanukkah, when he was conceived through the power of the Holy Spirit in his mother's womb. It happened this time of year. When many of the world is talking about Yeshua's birth, in actuality, it was his conception. He still came to this earth, but in the form of his mother's womb. So now let's talk about that birth. So we're talking about the conception. Now let's talk about the birth a little bit. Now this might be something new that many of you don't know as well. Well, if you've been with me long enough, you do know this, but maybe you've forgotten about it. 9 months later, so that was Hanukkah in December. 9 months later, after the angel visited Miriam on Hanukkah, Yeshua was born during the fall feast, October or Sukkot. Isn't it amazing? He was conceived during an 8-day holiday. He was born during an 8-day holiday. Scripture says 7 days, but then it adds that additional 8th day. We can simply get, now think about it, sometimes Scripture, people like to look too deeply at things sometimes, and you skim over some common sense stuff in Scripture, right? Think about this for a second. A little trivia here, so be ready to answer. How old was Yeshua when he was crucified and buried? 33 and a half. So a half year. Half year is 6 months, right? When was he crucified? What time of year? Spring, Passover, yeah. Around April 1st, give or take, right? So, if you want to get his birthday when he turned 33, what do you need to do? Subtract that 6 months, a half a year. What do you get? You get around October 1st, give or take, a Sukkot. If you look at the Jewish calendar, it's literally 6 months from Sukkot to Passover. Back that up, and you get Sukkot. You don't get his birthday falling in December, right? Is that common sense? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about where exactly Yeshua was born. I'm getting detailed now to a pinpoint spot. Are you ready? Large crowds would have been in Bethlehem. Now many would say, well, that was because of the taxes, right? But there's another reason why a large crowd would have been in Bethlehem during that time of year. Why? During his birth. Because it was Sukkot, they had to make pilgrimage, all heads of the household. So, why Bethlehem though? Bethlehem's small. Josh, how close is Bethlehem to Jerusalem? Very. Any of you that's familiar with Maryville and Alcoa, it's just like they're one city. Bethlehem and Jerusalem is pretty much the same. Now back in the day, there was a little bit more separation, a few more fields, a few more lamb fields where they would raise the lambs. Why? Because where were the lambs primarily needed in Israel? Right next door, the city, right next door in Jerusalem, the temple. So, they were large crowds that were in Bethlehem. This would explain why there was no vacancy, no room in the inn. And you know what? If you go back and you look at the studies of that, that was not the Holiday Inn of Bethlehem that Mary and Joseph tried to go stay in, right? That was a guest room in the family's home. They're like, we don't have no room for you here. Now, many would say at this point that, well, their family didn't have no room in the guest room, so they told them to go out to the barn. Not exactly. That's not exactly how it played out. There's a Messianic prophecy, and it tells us Yeshua would have been born in a field just outside the walls of Bethlehem, still Bethlehem proper. You know, how many of you don't live in the city limits, but you still are identified to live in this certain city, right? So he would have been born outside of the walls of Bethlehem at, quote, the Tower of the Flock. In Hebrew, Migdal Adar. Guess what else was born here at this tower? The Passover lambs. And they were kept not just by any old shepherds, but by priestly shepherds. Look at these two pictures. That is a tower that overlooks the flock. That is similar to maybe what Yeshua would have been born in that basement door. You see it? Okay, look at this next picture. Now that's a real old one right there. That picture was taken a very long time ago. I'll show you more pictures in just a moment, but let's get back to my notes here. These priestly shepherds, how many of you have been in a barn stable? It's pretty nasty, right? Would you say that barn stable is, quote, clean? No. But these priestly shepherds would have strictly maintained a ceremonial clean birthing place. They would bring these lambs inside of these basements and help give birth to them. And then they would make sure that they're certified kosher, they're good, and they would send them out. Let me continue reading my notes here. The lambs would have inspected to see if the shepherds would have inspected to see if the lambs were spotless and without blemish. Ooh, what is Yeshua? Spotless and without blemish. The Passover lamb, we do the same thing, right? So every time a lamb was born, they would have inspected it. Now, once they certify this lamb spotless, think of this story. Guess what they did with the lamb? How many of you have ever had a goat, a baby goat, or a lamb? What do? Oh yeah, they're jumping everywhere. They're a little bit, especially if they're newborn, they're a little flimsy, right? So they could very easily get hurt. Then they would no longer be spotless or blameless. So, in order to keep them from getting hurt, what do you think these priestly shepherds did? Keep thinking. They wrapped them with something. Guess what they wrapped them with? True. Wow. Is that mind-blowing? They wrapped them with strips of cloth, swaddling clothes, to make sure that they didn't get hurt. Have you ever wrapped like a little baby or a dog real tightly, you know? Mm-hmm. And that way they feel comforted, right? Look at this picture. Okay, while you're looking at this picture, after they wrapped them with swaddling clothes, no joke, the priest would lay the lambs in a manger. Wow. This is what I think the true birth scene looked like with Yeshua. I'm going to step up on the stage, guys. Maybe this won't affect that camera back there. But look at this floor. Is it dirty, nasty, manure everywhere? No, that's pretty clean, right? How many animals do you see here? Do you see pigs or anything else? The only animal you see is a lamb. Do you see any wise men there? Nope. Just shepherds. And this is a wall, like a concrete wall. What do you call that, where you mix the mud and mortar mix wall? That would have been, go back and click on another picture, show them the tower. Show them one of the towers. Yeah, that would have been the inside of that. Go back one more slide. It would have been the basement of that. Okay, now go back to that picture. Does this make sense to you? And I got a scripture to show you all this. We're going to read it in just a second. We're going to read this Messianic prophecy. Now, some of you might be saying, but Rabbi, it was Sukkot, and I thought he was born in a sukkah. Yes, it was Sukkot. So when Yeshua went in and was born in this tower, they probably had some more lambs there ready to give birth. So these priests are like, we can't really keep you here. We got others in line here that needs this facility. We need you to go back out. So they're like, okay. Either they went back to Bethlehem to the family sukkah, or they're like, okay, we saw a sukkah down here in the field where you priests had a sukkah built. Let's go dwell there and celebrate Sukkot, right? I don't think I have a picture for that, or do I? Yeah, I do. Show them that picture. Yeah. Now that's sort of an open-ended sukkah. There's no walls to it, so that's not quote-unquote kosher, but you get my point. Look, you see a shepherd and a baby and a manger underneath the sukkah. Do you see that? Now turn to your Bibles. It's on the screen. Micah chapter 4 from the New American Standard Bible, which is very close to the Tree of Life. It's one of the closest word-for-word translations you could get. Micah 4:8. As for you, tower of the flock, that word there in Hebrew, Migdal Adar, hill of the daughter of Zion, to you it will come. Now some other translations say he will come. Yes, the former dominion or rulership or kingship will come. The kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem.
Miqueas capítulo 4, verso 8. Y tú, torre de rebaño, colina de la hija de Sión, hasta ti vendrá el antiguo dominio, el reino de la hija de Jerusalén.
Verse 9. Now, why do you cry out loudly? Women, what happens when you go to give birth? Yeah, birth pains. You cry out loudly. Is there no king among you? What's Mary getting ready to give birth to? A king. Or has your counselor perished? Who's our counselor? The Holy Spirit. Yeshua was endowed by the Holy Spirit. It was the Holy Spirit that caused Miriam to get pregnant. That agony has gripped you like what? Talk to me. Like a woman in childbirth. Does this sound familiar? What's it say in Spanish?
Miqueas, verso 9. Ahora, ¿por qué gritas tan fuerte? ¿No hay rey en ti? ¿Ha perecido tu consejero que el dolor te aflige como a una mujer de parto?
Verse 10. Writhe and look, scream. Remember? Childbirth. Daughter of Zion or Zion, like a woman in childbirth. For now you will go out of the city of Bethlehem, and you will live in a field. You'll go have this baby in the field. And you will go to Babylon. Well, wait a minute. Now, Yeshua didn't go to Babylon after he was born, but where did he go? Egypt. Pretty close, right? Just a different, I mean, spiritually they are the same. And look, there you will be rescued. Yeah, Yeshua was rescued there in Egypt because Herod was trying to kill him. There the Lord will redeem you from the hand of your enemies. Did I go too far? Okay, now we can have it all.
Miqueas capítulo 4, verso 10. Retuércete y gime, hija de Sión, como mujer de parto, porque ahora saldrás de la ciudad y habitarás en el campo. E irás hasta Babilonia, allí serás rescatada, allí te redimirá el Señor de la mano de tus enemigos.
Do you see this? Is this plain to you? Does it make sense now that he was born there in that tower? Right? He was born where the Passover lambs were born. Wow. Isn't that amazing? And these priestly shepherds, look, they looked at him, 10 toes, 10 fingers. He's certified, wrapped him with swaddling clothes. laid him in the manger, the same manger that the sheep lay in. Wow. Mind-blowing, isn't it? Have any of you never saw this before? It's good though, right? Okay, there's one other big thing. I told you I'm going to just keep blowing your mind today. I sometimes like to compare my messages to baseball. Every time I want to knock it out of the park with a home run, with a mind-blowing. I don't want just a bunch of singles and base hits. I want to knock it out of the park every time. Yes. When did the wise men visit? Were they there that night? Nope. So when did they visit? I think it was a little less than 2 years. Herod wants to kill all the babies 2 years and under. You think he gave himself a little bit of cushion? Yeah. It's a wonder he didn't say 5 and under. I mean, just to say, I want to make sure. I think he gave himself some cushion. Matthew 2, verse 11 says, the wise men did not visit a baby in a manger, but a young child or a toddler is literally the word, in a house. Now this would explain Matthew 2:26, where King Herod killed all male children, what? Under 2 years. And again, I think he gave himself a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit of leeway. Therefore, the wise men did not visit Yeshua on the night of his birth during Sukkot. So when did they visit? Christian astronomers, 2 Christian astronomers by the name of Rick Larson, and you can look these guys up on your own time, and Barry Satterfield. Now, I like Barry Satterfield a little bit better. He actually has an article. Now, let me say something. I don't agree with every one of their conclusions, and both of them celebrate Christmas, okay? But they tie in Hanukkah, especially Satterfield. He directly mentions Hanukkah. So these 2 Christian astronomers did separate studies. They didn't work together. They did separate studies on the star Bethlehem, I think even at separate times. But both came to very similar, not identical, but similar conclusions. And here's what they determined. They determined the wise men visited Yeshua at 1 year and 3 months, or in other words, 15 months. So that's that 2-year time frame, right? And guess, according to their, you can go read all the details. For the sake of time, I didn't want to stand up here and read a scientific report to you, okay? You can go read all this. They break it down. They determined based upon the stars that aligned, actually it was planets. It was planets that aligned to make this huge. You remember it talks about in the book of Revelation, the sun at her chest, the moon, the new moon at her feet. That was a new moon. That was during the time of Rosh Hashanah. Have you ever noticed a new moon? It always sets. Just as soon as the sun sets, the new moon is right behind it. Have you ever noticed that? We'll try to look for that this week when the calendar changes. You have to find the new moon on that very first night. You have to be out there when the sun sets in order to see it, and you can just barely see it over top of the trees over there. It chases the sun. So, remember in Revelation it talks about the moon, the new moon, and the sun. It's in the constellation, is it Leo? You can look all this up tonight. But that told the wise men, that was during Rosh Hashanah, that told them, get your camels, boys, load up. Start following this. Start following these planets. I'm trying to remember their story. So that could have been the sign for them to prepare and start packing. Then Jupiter and some of the other planets aligned, and then they said, okay, let's ride. And they started following those planets. And then right when the the planets got over top of Bethlehem, this is when the wise men, they were already in, and by the way, the wise men are believed to be Jewish. They were in Babylon because of the Babylonian exile. So, when the wise men arrived in Israel, those planets seem to have stopped over top of Bethlehem. I believe that's called, retrograde. Thank you, Leighton. I was going to call it intergrade. It's retrograde. Retrograde, where the planets, they start going this one direction and then they sort of slow down as if they stop and they do a U-turn to go back. But in that slow down curve, to the naked eye of the wise men, they're like, it stopped right there. And when it stopped was on Hanukkah, in the month of December. Now, I'll throw this out there too, because I thought this was interesting. You'll see this if you read their report. Today in America and mainly around the world, we follow the Gregorian calendar, right? The Gregorian calendar can oftentimes be very different than the Hebrew calendar, right? Well, back then there was no Pope Gregory Gregorian calendar. There was a Julius Caesar calendar, the Julian calendar. Well, guess what? That calendar followed a little more closer to the Hebrew calendar. Not these big variances, but a little closer. And according to these Christian astronomers, again, you can read their report, they said that it was not only Kislev 25th, but it was also December 25th on the Julian calendar. Not when Yeshua was born, but when the wise men came to pay a visit to him. Interesting. I got something else interesting for you. In biblical times, some people, some cultures, including some Jews, not all Jews across the board, but some, celebrated their birth on their conception date, not the day they were actually born. Without knowing, the wise men did exactly that. They showed up on the day Yeshua was conceived 15 months earlier. And they showed up to celebrate his coming. What did they have with them? What did the wise men bring with them? Yeah, gifts, presents. What do we give on Hanukkah today? Presents. You might give frankincense and myrrh. I don't know. If you give gold, I'll take that. Do you get my point, though? Isn't this amazing? I hope you're silent because you're shocked. Now, before we close, I want to make two comparisons. These are just some that the Holy Spirit just showed me, and I put it down on paper and on the slides. I could have probably come up with a lot more if I would have thoroughly thought about it, but for the sake of time and ending the sermon, I just wanted to show you these two. Two connections between Hanukkah and the wise men. Next slide. The wise men followed a bright light in the darkness. Hanukkah is shining the light brightly in a dark world. Wow. Do you see that? It was as if they was following this huge, like the Shamash candle or something, in the sky, the darkest time of the year. Okay? Look at the next comparison. The wise men brought presents, as I said. During Hanukkah, we give presents. Now, I know a lot of people like to, I don't want to put any lights up this year. You know, that's a Christmas thing. Where do you think they probably got it? We don't have to put the same color combination and do all that, but presents, don't want to do all that. Where do you think they got it? Amen? Amen? See, if you don't know me and you don't know my teachings and my ministry, I try to bring people together and show some common things that we have, right? I don't think it's any good to condemn a group of people. You're not going to win them over to you. Right? Amen? You can point out. I'm not saying don't point out how they're doing something wrong. But you know how you point it out? By you doing something different. They'll get the picture. They're like, they're different than me. They're doing things a little bit different. I need to look into that. I need to study that. I need to figure out why. You don't have to condemn and run somebody down, right? So, in closing, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. You enjoyed it? Did you learn something today? In closing, and I got a Spanish translation on this too, on this one Bible verse. I said this 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to say it again. Hanukkah was so important to Yeshua that he made the long journey. Remember I said it was 70 miles? It was a 3-day long walk. Yeshua lived in Galilee. He didn't live in Jerusalem. He didn't have to come. But he made the 3-day long journey because that's how important Hanukkah was to him. And here it is. The only place that you find this in all of Scripture is in John or 1, chapter 10, verse 22. This is from the New Living Translation. It says, it was now winter and Yeshua was in Jerusalem at the time of Hanukkah. The New Living puts that in there. I didn't add that. The New Living has that. The festival of dedication.
Juan capítulo 10, verso 22. En esos días se celebraba en Jerusalén la fiesta de la dedicación.
And again, this is the only place in the New Testament, or in the whole Bible, that we have Hanukkah mentioned. In the New Testament, it's a New Testament feast. Amen? Huh? Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Yeshua is all about, or I'm sorry, Hanukkah is all about Yeshua. Yeshua is all about Hanukkah. It could go both ways. During this Hanukkah, here's my declaration to you. Let us celebrate the light of the world. Yeshua coming to this earth in his mother's womb. Let us celebrate the beginning of our redemption story. Can I get an amen? Amen. Hallelujah. You know, I know some Messianics. They believe like us that Yeshua was conceived on Hanukkah and born during Sukkot. But some Messianics celebrate during Hanukkah, not Christmas. Hanukkah. They celebrate his coming because he came. Whether he was born or in his mother's womb, he was here. Right? The light of the world. He was here on Hanukkah because, as Joan has said 3 or 4 times in my sermon today, conception begins, life begins at conception. Amen. Amen. Let us pray. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for this sermon here today. Thank you for this service. Thank you for all that you're doing here at the Olive Tree. Thank you, Lord, for the music and this Feast of Hanukkah we've celebrated this past week and the Hanukkah party. Lord, we thank you for the great future you have in store for us. And Father, I pray that all of us here, all of you watching online, that you can be a bright, shining light on this feast. A bright, shining light in the month of December. Not being so negative and not being a Scrooge or a Grinch, but being a light. Walking in the footsteps of our Lord and Savior Yeshua. Drawing people to us instead of running them off with negativity and anger and bitterness. It is my prayer that each one of us be filled afresh with your Holy Spirit and fire, that we burn brightly to a dark world. In Yeshua's name, we pray all these things together, and we say, Amen. Amen. Let us all rise. Kim, you can tell the children if they want to go ahead and come out, they can. I have this also in Spanish as well. It will be on the screen. So Ozzy will be saying that for us in English, or in Spanish. I will say it in English momentarily. Stretch forth your hands like you're receiving. I will stretch out my hands like I am giving. Yavarekaka Adonai Vayishmereka Yair Adonai Peinaveleka Vikuneka Yisa Adonai Peinaveleka Vayasim Leka Shalom. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you His peace. Amen.
El Señor te bendiga y te guarde. El Señor haga resplandecer su rostro sobre ti y tenga de ti misericordia. El Señor alce sobre ti su rostro y te dé paz.
Amen. Do you receive it this morning? If you do, give the Lord a hand clap of praise. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I want to thank all of you for watching. You here in person can be seated. I want to thank all of you that is watching online today. God bless you. I wish